All right, folks, and we are live coming at you this Tuesday, March the 8th, 2022. And I got my good buddy, Mr. Jose Galison, on. Jose, I got your package in the mail, and I have questions. First of all, I don't know how the other guys feel about this, but the $100 bill. And then I also got this, which was wrapped in dry ice, packaged very, very well. I gotta say, but I mean, you could have used like a label or something.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So let's just see exactly how this exactly works out. Oh, why is it so thick? It's so thick. I mean, it's a lot too. I mean, was this like one cat or several?
It was few milkings.
It was a few milkings.
Yeah.
Okay, well, uh, Prost.
The funny thing is, like, obviously the joke here is everyone's giving me shit that I haven't like followed through on supposedly drinking cat milk for Tower
Oh,
Power Hour.
why
But
is it's
the
gamey?
joke here, the
Ugh.
joke, the legit of it though is it is a logistics thing. It was a matter of that, like, right when I
Oh,
promised to do that, they gave one of them gave birth, and so then those little suckers are sucking up all the milk, and then the other
oh
one
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
about to give birth. So it's a logistics thing. I gotta wait till they have enough production, otherwise it's gonna be like a few drops, and then they're just gonna make fun of me for not having anything, because you'd be surprised something this big doesn't really require a whole lot of milk.
Yeah, yeah. That's and please don't deprive the little kittens of mommy's milk, whatever you do, 'cause you want
I'm,
your little cats to grow up to be big and strong.
yeah, I'm hoping tomorrow I'll be able to get a good milking in for the Lou Perez episode we have on Tower Power. That should be fun. So.
Yeah, Lou Perez is he's a great guy, and he does his comedy so deadpan. Like sometimes
Mhm.
you can't even really tell that he's joking, but he's obviously hitting a punchline here and there.
Yeah.
So if you guys aren't on TikTok, Lou Perez is also on TikTok, and he does some pretty good live TikToks over there. It's kind of
Is
great.
he big on TikTok?
Yeah, he's got a few thousand followers. He's not the
Oh,
biggest
okay.
person over there because he's not a
Okay.
fat girl jiggling his tits all over the place.
Well, you
Because they
never know.
have like
Some
hundreds of thousands. And
Yeah. Some people just get big on TikTok. I don't know. I don't get it, but it's not my generation, I guess. I don't know.
it's definitely not my generation at all, and I'm there because I'm hip. Yeah. And of course,
Maybe
David
one
Brady
day.
he's got a comment on the TikTok. Eesh,
Yeah.
had nothing to say about cat milk, but here we are.
Yeah, that's your thing, David Brady. That's your fucking your generation.
Definitely his generation. There are
Yeah.
there are teen kids all over there, and
Hmm.
cringe every last bit of them. So Jose, you just had your LP Florida event. I'm
Yep,
pretty
that was
sure
fun.
you had a fun time.
Yeah, it was a blast. We had a lot of fun. I was only there for Saturday night. I left Sunday. I basically downed a whole bottle of scotch. I shared it a little bit, but probably only like tops like a quarter of the bottle I shared. And then I had other people buy me drinks. So I probably, all in all, had the equivalent of a whole thing of whiskey. And I'm surprised. I don't drink
Nice.
hard usually. Like when I drink hard, I drink hard. But like usually I'll have like a couple beers and that'll be about it. But I was surprised. I still had it in me. Like I still was still able to drink a bunch. I still was able to get by the next day. Don't get me wrong, it was rough. I had a little bit of a hangover, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be, like at all. I was like, hell yeah, this reminds me of like college years. I still got it,
Yeah.
The old man still got it.
Yeah, typically if you don't really mix them too bad, like if you're drinking beer and hard alcohol, I mean you're gonna have a really bad hangover the next day.
Yeah.
But if you're like sticking to hard alcohol the whole night, yeah, you might wake up, feeling a little bit dried out
Yeah.
and got a little bit of
Yeah.
a headache, but it's not gonna be too bad.
Yeah, I was just drinking straight up scotch, just like straight. And it's funny how many of the young guys were like, "Oh my god, that's so gross! You're just drinking whiskey straight, like on the bottom." Like, apparently you've never had
Yeah,
good scotch. Like,
yeah, like a man.
yeah, like yeah, I'm sure. Like, obviously, bottom shelf like whiskey. Like, yeah, that's some shit you want to mix. But like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I brought some top shelf whiskey. It's probably my favorite cheap whiskey. I brought. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's Dimple Pinch is what it's called. It's a
I have
blend.
heard of Dimple Pinch.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably my favorite one. I know a lot of Scotch snobs get all like upset because it's like, oh, it's not single malt or whatever. I don't care. It,
yeah,
it tastes good, and it's only like usually like $30 to $40, which is It's not like
Yeah, it's
bottom
like
shelf.
mid tier.
Yeah, that's like mid to mid low for Scotch. But for what it is, if you want a regular drink, because if you're a Scotch drinker, you can't be having the expensive shit all the time. You know what I mean? So
No, I mean, not all of us have like $300 Macallan, 15 years hanging up in the closet collecting dust.
yes,
Yeah, I just recently got another bottle of Monkey Shoulder, and that's
That's good stuff.
$35. It's very good.
Yeah.
That was really funny. The time that I got introduced to that, I went up to a bar down here in Baton Rouge called the Bulldog, and their shtick is they have a whole bunch of beers on tap. So I don't drink beer anymore. So I was asking, was like, yeah, can I just get a good Scotch and soda, and then you can surprise me with the type of Scotch. He goes, okay, well I got this stuff called Monkey Shoulder. It's great. I was like, a Scotch named Monkey Shoulder. And he was like, trust me.
It is good stuff. I've had Monkey Shoulder.
That's very good. Yeah,
I can vouch for it. I like Dimple Pinch better, but it's Monkey Shoulder is pretty close. So for what it is, obviously I could think of scotches I like more than like a Dimple Pinch or Monkey Shoulder, but for the price, like you can't beat it. That's good. Yeah,
yeah, very good. It's easily drinkable. It's very smooth. Everything else. And then I was getting a little weird because I tried out some of the Jameson like flavored stuff. So they have the orange, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And the coffee and whiskey, not so much. And I like coffee and I like whiskey, but it's just whatever it was. It was like, I can drink this, but
yeah, they've been doing that a lot lately. Certain alcoholic things of like stuff. They're like, oh, I like that and I like that, and then you have it together and you're like, no, it's gross. Like they tried I know this isn't like a liquor thing. It was more of like a beer thing. But I remember they had that like craze where they were doing like root beer shit for a while. And I was like, that stuff is disgusting. And they do have like coffee PBRs, which those are gross. I don't know if you've seen those. And I like PBRs, honestly. I know it's like poor white man thing, but it's that deep down inside me, I'm also a poor white man. So, I like, trashy beers like that too.
Oh, and David Brady again. Alcohol smells like piss. How do you people drink that? First of all, what do you mean by you people?
Yeah, adults. That's what he means.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. I forget. I constantly got to remind. It's like he's 16. Don't talk to him like that. But that's fine.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Acquired taste, David. If you don't like alcohol, don't drink alcohol. No one's making you.
Unless you come to Childerberg, and then we might sit there and stand around and chant, chug, chug, chug.
Yeah, if you don't have some sort of like really good personality or something, it's fun, and you go to some sort of social event like that, you got to get intoxicated in some form. I don't know. Yeah. And I'm not even saying that to be mean.
I was pretty much just hammered the whole time until Liberty Thought came and knocked my drink out of my hand at one point, but that was okay.
It's not even be mean either. Like I've been sober at events like these not events like this, but at certain events with social gatherings, and it's like it's always the worst when you're the sober guy. You're like, this is like I can tell they're having fun, but I'm not on your level, and you guys are really fucking annoying right now.
Yeah. There's always that point where you're sitting there and you're just like, just stone cold sober, and then like everyone else is having a great time, and you're just like, I really wanted to party, but I'm going to be the responsible adult in the room.
Yeah.
And it's like, could
little
you not
Sally
stand so
has
close
a
to me?
piano recital tomorrow, so I can't do that. I told my wife 3 drinks, and I'd wait an hour or 2 before I drove home.
Made sure I had a whole bunch of bread to soak it all up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was always fun. Always fun. I can't wait to go to the next Tom Woods thing, because that was just out of control. It was what was it? Like at the end, it was like 2,500 people. It was like ridiculous.
Yeah, he's got to speed it up, because I don't want to wait like that long till Tom Woods 3000. That was a fun event for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, at this point, he just has to do it every year.
Yeah, this Tom Woods random number, just like not even like a even one, like 2,327. Just random shit.
Yeah, so we're gonna celebrate episode 4,269 for no particular reason.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was such a great time. I highly suggest anybody go hang out at those, and of course Childerberg, since I'm the unofficial spokesweasel. Got to come down to Austin, Texas here in a couple months. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, Liberty events are a blast. I'm glad it's like Florida and has become like the number 2 to like New Hampshire for like notable Liberty places. So it's like, because I've been noticing more of an interest in like that, like events like that, and then even then for events like that, larger gatherings. Like I know Soho Forum for a minute there, they were doing some of their shit here. I went to Ben.
Yeah, he was doing it right there in the Villages, right?
Yeah, I did. Which it was Burgess versus I don't even remember who
Yeah,
the
I
other
think
guy was.
Nick Ashley was also there because we got some
Yeah.
good meme material from that one.
Yeah, I met Nick there. That's the first time I met Nick was at that. But yeah, I can't remember. Was it fucking? It might have been Epstein or not Epstein. Yeah, Gene Epstein. I think maybe he did debate Burgess for that one. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I know he did
Yeah.
a few of them down there. It's like
Yeah.
right at the height of the stupidity.
Yeah, that one was fun. Obviously, a different vibe than like an LP convention or even Tom Woods 2000. Honestly, Tom Woods 2000 was probably the most raucous event I've done. I've only done the 3 actually. Now that I think about it, but I mean, you wouldn't think it would with the reputation Tom Woods gets. But I mean, there was a shitload of people there, and everyone broke off to their respective groups, and there was
Yeah.
definitely some partiers, and just with the size of the amount of people that were there. I know the Epstein event, the Soho Forum. It was fun, but it was a little bit more respectable. So
Yeah, it's a little more buttoned up. A little more
yeah.
buttoned up.
Mhm.
Try to maintain some kind of air of professionalism.
Mhm.
Yeah, that Tom Woods event, it was so crazy. Like everybody was inside watching, and then all of the partying was happening out in the hallway. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of it. I think I popped in once or twice, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna go hang out with the homies in the hallways."
Yeah, there was a couple times where we walked in and it was like, okay, they're cutting Tom in half. I was duck out here. It's like, oh, look at that, Lynn Ulbricht. Okay, great,
Yeah.
cool. And then it's like, okay, we got to see who the Michael Malice secret guest is. And then he pulls out the Muppet, and then we're like, okay, all right, back to the hallway.
Yeah, cool, man. Very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a great thing. And you got to meet Malice in person.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I don't know if yes, technically it was a meet, but it was literally like I basically just saved him from the crowd really quick because he was kind of getting hounded, and then I kind of pulled this move where I kind of like sort of positioned myself between him and the crowd, and I was kind of like, "Hey, I don't want to be that guy, but I can tell you clearly want to go away from this crowd. You want to just take a quick picture real quick, and then we don't even have to say anything, and I gave you a perfect out just in the kind of." The way we're positioned, he could kind of tell. I didn't have to say it in that many words, but you could tell by the way I positioned my body, and the move was kind of like, "Hey, here's your perfect out. I'm helping you out here." And he took a picture, and then he ran off, and that was all there was to it. So so he probably
and now that he lives down in Austin, we're gonna see if we can get him over to Childerberg for him to show up and then see the type of people that follow him on Twitter and then immediately go away.
I guarantee you he won't show up, but I mean, who knows? Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I could just have this vision of him just like stepping out of the car, whoever drives him there, because he hasn't learned how to drive yet. He's just gonna take one look around and goes, nope, back in the car, and just leaves.
But I think what I did was a smart move though, because I'm playing the long game, because I do want to get him for my Anarchist Handbook series on the road, and then later, he's gonna have in his head like, dude, you're that one guy who really did me an absolute fucking solid, and we're a real fucking Chad, and just like, you weren't being that annoying fan. If anything, you were like, I'm just very acute of the social situation here. And boom, all right, cool. There you go. Hooked him up. So yeah.
I guess at this point he's got to know that you've been doing his book.
Oh yeah, he's aware. I mean, I'm not saying that to mean that like he like a first name basis or anything. Like he is somewhat aware to some extent. Because he's retweeted multiple times. I know he's mentioned. No, he didn't mention it on. Like I remember I super chatted once, and he said he may be open to coming on to do it. And there's been a few things. He's also like replied to a couple of my fucking promos for it. So, he's aware. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if someone ambushed him, he might be like, "Wait, what?" Because I'm sure he has so much shit going on. It's not something. It's not like it's something on the top of his head. Like,
yeah.
But he's aware to some extent. So. Yeah, but it's a slow game. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm technically at 50% of the way through, because the move I'm working for is I'm going to do all of them, and then just like the book, the last chapter is a Michael Malice chapter. So I'm trying to do I'll do a chapter. I'm plugging away at the chapters, and whenever I get to the last one, that'll be the Michael Malice one if I'm lucky enough to get that. So yeah.
So I saw you had like a backup plan where you're going to get the very failed podcaster Tom Woods to do it.
Yeah, that was mostly a joke. I would actually like them to get one of the other chapters. I had the Tannehills in mind for him, but I mean, he could probably maybe pull like a Tolstoy or something. Obviously, if I managed to land Tom Woods, he'd get his pick of which chapter he wanted. Because
very true.
yeah, I'm also trying to shoot for people who for each respective like chapter, like the author or whatever, I'm trying to pick someone who like is someone who can embody the spirit of that individual. So it's not like I wouldn't get Dave Smith for Bakunin. You know what I mean? Like, so like I
really.
like whenever I get to Bakunin, I want someone who legit believes that shit. Like, which, you know, like, because the idea is, and even then, like, say the Bakunin episode, I'm not gonna try to do the move where I'm trying to like disprove Bakunin in that episode. If anything, I'm doing my best to steelman it in the best way possible. That'll be hard. Yeah. Yeah, because it's trying to steelman their ideas so people can introduce their thoughts. I'm trying my best to not put my ANCAP thoughts on some of the socialist ones. I haven't crossed that bridge yet. I don't think I've done any of the lefties.
This might sound crazy. You could get Ben Burgess to do Bakunin.
Yeah, I think I forget her name's Comrade Misty. I forget her like what she goes by. I've never heard her. She was on Reed's show before. She's a pretty good big following in a good channel. I've checked out some of her stuff for Comrade Misty. I can't remember what her I think she has a couple different podcasts, but she's pretty good. I think she may get the Bakunin one. I was kind of like in like talks with her, and she had a lot of stuff going on. She was doing a lot of different rallies and shit. So I think I might get her, but there are a few other lefties as well. So I know Burgess might not be actually a bad nab to get. I don't know why Burgess never even crossed my mind, to be honest. But yeah, that's not a bad thought. That's like actually one of those like thoughts that's super obvious, and now like I'm like, why didn't I think of that before? Although I don't think he's an anarchist though, so that's actually
he's definitely very statist. But anybody who could understand the material, or may actually already know it. I was just thinking that's the only guy that would spring to mind who would actually kind of
but there's a vast difference between like a democratic socialist and like an anarcho-communist. Those are two different beasts.
Quite the chasm between the two.
like the equivalent to that would be like a ANCOM is to a DemSoc what a Rothbardian is to a generic Republican. Because it's like they still have some of those ideas boiled into their stuff, freedom, hoorah, rah, rah, all that shit, but they don't really actually really, buy into it. They're like, yeah, freedom, but
yeah. It gets really fun when you're talking to your Republican buddies, and you start talking some of the stuff, and then they get so close to coming stepping over the line, and then they immediately draw back. Yeah. It was like, well, I can understand police abuse and everything, but we got to have them. Otherwise, drug dealers would be all over the streets.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, the drug dealers are all over the streets. It's called Big Pharma, buddy.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I saw. The people responsible for the OxyContin thing, they just made a big old Hulu show about it called Dope Sick and Sackler. And they got fined $2 billion. But that's the story that they want everyone to focus on, the Sackler family being involved with the opiates. And so what they didn't show was Pfizer and some of these other drug companies getting fined multiple billions of dollars for pushing all that stuff.
It's Pfizer and one of the other pharmaceutical companies that both of them have the highest fines ever, like criminal fines ever. I can't remember the other major one. It's not GlaxoSmithKline or I don't know, one of the other major ones, and one of the ones I think had a vaccine as well. So
coincidence. So I really think it's funny because I was like reading the story, and it's like, okay, you're just putting the guy on there because it's tied into the Hulu show that Michael Keaton was starring in, and I was like, okay, so you found the scapegoat. This is the guy who's responsible. I was like, no, it's not just him. It's like everybody in that industry that was pushing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I've never really done a deep dive into all the opiate stuff, so I don't really know how much you could really hold them to account for some of the shit they did. I don't know how much in the up and up a lot of the opiate stuff was. I don't know. I mean, and at a certain point, it becomes like, yeah, I guess there was probably a period of time where they were probably selling it as a wonder drug that really wasn't that bad. But at a certain point in time, there comes like, it's just like with tobacco and shit. At a certain point, it's like, dude, like if you don't think this is addictive at this point, you're kind of fucking retarded. Like I don't know how much you can blame I mean, like, yeah, some of the earlier stuff when they were like marketing a certain way, but there comes a certain point where it's like, all right, it's pretty common knowledge that this shit fucks you up. So I mean, it's good if you just got a surgery or some shit, but like, you know,
yeah.
but be careful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and they get ridiculous with that. I had a surgery a few years ago, and the guy gave me the prescription for the what was it, Percocets, and I looked at the amount, and it was like 150 tablets, and I was just looking. I was like, 150 tablets.
Yeah.
And he goes, yes, you'll be in lots of pain. I was like, no, I probably won't. I might have like 3 of these.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked about this before forever ago, but probably from the ages like 17 to 19, I probably was like legit like a pill addict. So like, yeah, I'm very familiar with opiates, but at the same time, like, and they do kind of sneak up on you a little bit because, and you know what? The funny thing is, this is almost like a weird side effect of the war on drugs, where you've been told everything's bad, 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 bad. And
Yeah.
then I'm one to admit that I've experimented with a lot of drugs. And honestly, most of them aren't really as bad as they make them out to be. Opiates, in some ways, are, in some ways, aren't. They definitely are addictive. But yeah, my point I was getting, though, is that like you as a kid, when you're growing up, you get told by your society at large that like drugs are so bad, this drug's bad, especially back in the day. Like now weed's a different thing, but even then they used to do the same shit for weed. And then you, when you're like 16 years old, you have some weed and you're like, dude, this is just good
anyone who's ever
feelings
smoked
and
a joint
fun.
knows automatically that the government is just full of shit, you know?
Yeah, like you mean I just have a fun time and feel nice and get a little sleepy? Like, oh, this is so horrible. And then it gives you this idea of that, like, well, what else are they lying about? And so you don't really take anything to heart because it's like just bullshit information. Whereas if we had like an honest society, you know, they'd be like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, don't be a complete stoner and like, you know, be productive, but then it would have this like mature like dialogue when it comes to say stuff like opiates, like, yeah, they're fun, but they'll build up on you, and you know, like, you may very well get dope sick and shit like that, because that's the big thing with pills. A lot of people don't realize like it's addictive in like an addictive sense, but it's also addictive in a physical sense, to where you're like, if you stop, you will get sick. So like, I was dope sick multiple times, but I mean, it sucks. You go like, I mean, it's worse for different people.
Never actually been that far into anything, so it's like, okay, we're just party drugs, and then after the party's over, it's like, okay, so I'll go back to drinking alcohol every night. So
yeah, there are differing levels though. Like when it comes to like say something like dope sick, like I say that like I'm sure there's some hardcore pill addicts out there who kind of scoff at me and be like, dude, you fucking pussy. But for like dope sick, for me, like it probably was literally like 2, maybe 3 times I was dope sick, because every time I would get like dope sick, it was almost like a eye-opening experience of like, I'm way worse on these than I thought I was, because I kind of been lying to myself. But it was always just like a 24 hours just feeling like shit and sick, and then I'd usually be kind of start getting better after that. But I do know that there are people who would do way more and get way more dope sick and be like way more dangerous, like borderline like real legit health problems if they stopped like suddenly. That's why you have like stuff like methadone clinics and shit like that. But yeah, so I know a lot of like hardcore drug addicts would probably scoff at me and be like, "You fucking pussy, what are you talking about?" But yeah, you I guess I was also a little bit more cautious when I was dicking with that stuff, even though I did get addicted. But it wasn't to the extent of some hardcore drug addicts just through caution that went completely, Yeah. So.
Well, I've got my experiences with that because, both of my kids are adopted through foster care, and my little girl was born drug exposed. So we had to give her medication to wean her off of heroin, which was, fun going to the pharmacist for the first time to get that one filled. And, the pharmacist looking over the counter and like giving you that scowl. It's like, you motherfucker. And you're like, not me. I'm here to help.
One heroin for my wee little fella here.
Yeah, it comes in a nice little syrup that you just have to stick in their mouth, and hopefully that they'll swallow most of it. And so, but not fun at all. But so it's and you get people like Doug Stanhope, and he's talked about too. He's tried giving up the sauce a little bit. He goes, once the hands start shaking, then I can't see straight. It's like I have to go get a drink.
Yeah, no, I've never gone to that point with alcoholism at all. like I said, like, yeah, I know I just like was bragging earlier in the show about drinking like a whole thing, but that really is a rarity for me. I'll have like usually like I don't drink daily, and like maybe like once or twice a week I'll have like 2 or 3 drinks, like, and by that like a beer or
Yeah.
something. I don't even usually drink straight. Like every now and then I might have some scotch, and then I might have like a 2 or 3 finger glass, and that'd be about it for the night.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at. But there are people that is another thing. Alcohol is one of those things that actually surprisingly, like if you get on it, like it will, like people can like die from like stopping, cold turkey if they're hard enough on it. Like alcohol is a fucking bitch when it comes to that stuff. It's weird though. You got to get to like a next level of alcoholism to get there though.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a time in the early 2000s. I was probably on the precipice of getting there because like, I was going through an entire bottle of Jack Daniels like every 3 or 4 days. It was it was pretty. Your shit's fucked up when you're at a Walmart at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to buy another bottle of Jack Daniels, and the person that's checking you out then has to ask, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Oh man, a Walmart employee is asking me this question." Man, I fucked up. But yeah, it was like at most all I got was like just feeling like shit for a few days while I was just trying to get all of it out of my system. And then after that,
Yeah.
it's like kind of sort of feeling normal. But yeah, I never got like Doug Stanhope levels. That's like so far out there. It's like, I couldn't even imagine.
I don't even understand like alcoholism, like, or like, okay, I mean, I guess I get it in a sense, but like, I guess me as like a parent, like with the responsibilities, it's like, dude, I don't know, it's exhausting. Like, if like, even sometimes where I only have like 2 or 3 drinks, it'll affect my sleep, and I already like don't get a whole lot of sleep as it is as a parent. So it's like I couldn't imagine like functioning alcoholics. Like this must be an exhausting existence,
Yeah.
like I couldn't bear it.
Yeah, as soon as you said functional alcoholic, like everybody has just had that picture of the dude in the office that they know of as kind of a fuck up, but he's actually kind of good at his job at the same time.
Yeah, the one that that probably like 9 o'clock at night starts fucking slamming them and is fucked up, but somehow rolls into work on time and does his job just perfectly well. And you're like, well, bravo to you, but
Yeah, it's
God,
like
you must
can't
be
say anything
exhausted.
about your performance, but
Yeah, like I don't know. It feels like one of those like stretching yourself thin type things where you're just like, dude, you must be a wreck.
yeah, it's like if we ever get to the point where we're hearing each other's thoughts, that's the one guy you don't want to have any part. It's like I don't want to walk around in your brain for any
Yeah.
amount of time. I can't even imagine.
Mhm.
Oh, that's pretty terrible. But the Russia-Ukraine thing, we were kind of touching on a little bit in the pre-show chit chat. So the Azov Battalion, they have all of their Nazi symbolism on their patches and everything, and they had this interview. And like after the interview, the guy that's being interviewed from the Azov Battalion is like, "Oh, we can't talk about that. We can't talk about that." And of course, the media is like, "Well, I don't want to lose access, so I guess I'll try asking this question again in a different way."
Yeah. I know. I never watched it. I saw a little picture of it on Twitter. I honestly just didn't care enough because I knew it would probably be something like that. Like, I knew it would be way more viral online if they had like gotten some crazy expose of like, yes, we do hate the Jews and we crucify blacks and you're like, whoa, like that would have gone way more viral than just what I mean. Like I knew it was probably a nothing burger if they got someone to show up on the show on Fox.
Yeah, I think the meme summary of it was actually very good because I had the picture of the guy and he's got his little patch of the black sun and everything, and he was like, no, we don't ask about that one, and that was basically the whole interview. But I just think it's really funny because I actually had one of the boomer cons around here when I was talking about that, and he's like, well, no, that's Putin's people. He's the one funding them. I was like, no, they're literally in the Ukraine. They have the Ukrainian flag and everything. They're fighting against the Russians.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's like, are you not paying attention at least for 2 minutes?
Well, that wouldn't make sense because Putin's bad. So this, what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I had posted a meme of the Drake, the shying away from TDS and then giving the thumbs up to PDS for Putin derangement syndrome. I was like, how quickly they switch.
Yeah, shit is pretty wild. It's definitely a weird situation right now with everything going on. I mean, I'm not a huge current events junkie, but I'm definitely concerned with all the crazy sanctions. I guess they They're going to not have import Russian oil or fuel or whatever. And I guess now then they went crawling back to Saudi Arabia. I mean, I didn't look deeply into it. So, I mean, pretty much for anyone watching this or, or really any of my audience or your audience, no, anything that ever comes out of my mouth, don't ever assume this is some expert opinion whatsoever. But just the little bit I saw, it seemed like from the Saudi Arabia thing, the way they made it sound is that they weren't that like, yeah, maybe we'll still be getting we'll still be getting
David Brady's an animal.
Yeah. We'll still be probably getting oil from them is kind of how I interpreted it. I might be wrong, but they aren't willing to, hook us up with the prices is what I got out of that, is what it sounded like from the little article I looked at. I haven't looked into it at all because I just, whatever. There's too much to keep up with. So this is why I like to hang out in Theoryland. I used to be a current events junkie, and then current events went from like 25 miles per hour to like 200, and I was just like, I can't even keep up.
It's like the news cycle, it's less than 24 hours now. I mean, now it's like down to like 2 hours because you got to get it. You got to be the first ones to get it up there on the air and everything else. So yeah, when I saw it, there was like the Saudis were basically telling Joe Biden to go pound sand, and in Saudi Arabia you can do that quite literally. And it was like, don't come to us and ask us to increase production. We actually kind of like it when the price of oil is very, very high because it means we can literally silver plate a Lamborghini at that point.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, because it sounds like some people were kind of thinking that little blip that I saw, people saying that little clip from Saudi Arabia, I'm kind of talking my ass, I don't remember exactly what it said. A lot of people seem to interpret it as that like they weren't going to give us oil or gas. Like, no, they're still going to give it to us. They're just not going to like hook us up to like, they're not going to be like, we'll ignore, the rules of supply and demand here just because we love you guys. Like, they're like, well, it seems to me like there's an increased amount of demand here and lower supply. So, we may take advantage of this and, price accordingly.
What's the price of Brent sweet crude right now? It's like $180 a barrel. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Schmeghead here, fake news. CNN told me my freedoms, I like how he spells it, are located in Ukraine. So if Putin thinks that he can just invade South America like that, he's got another thing coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, you tell him, buddy.
And it is wild how, I mean, I feel like such a nerd saying it, and it's almost like this thing that almost doesn't even need to be said, but so hypocritical. And it's just like, it's becoming so blatant that it's comical. Just that like, you can't invade a foreign democracy or, it's like, okay. And then it becomes this weird semantics game. Because if you were actually ever to engage with one of these people who say shit like that, like if you point to any of the other examples of times we fucked with other democracies, that's not a real democracy. Like, what? Yeah. So what is a real democracy? A real democracy is that thing which is good that you don't need to invade. It's like, okay. Sure, by your definition, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, we recently got Kamala Harris with her little laughing fit talking about Russia being a big country and it invaded a smaller country with no provocation. I was like, no provocation? Yeah. There's history going all the way back to 1783 that you might have just kind of glossed over.
Yeah, Russia has more justification than we have had for most of our foreign shit. And that's not to say what Russia did was right, but
yeah, I'm of the opinion that, like, on both sides of this, they're both shitheads, and I don't want any part of it. It's like, I'm just out of it.
Fuck Russia, fuck Ukraine, fuck NATO. Like, I mean, I don't get why this whole idea of people like trying to jump to sides. I'm like, they can all be bad. That's also an option. Like,
yes, it's just like the U.S. Civil War. It was like basically both sides were kind of dicks.
Yeah. And I can also
that one's gonna get me in trouble.
I can also say what Russia is doing is completely understandable from the perspective of a government doing what is in their best interest, and also think it's wrong.
Yes.
Those aren't like, and also the fact that NATO and other countries operate in a certain way that provocated into them into a situation like that is also wrong. That doesn't make what Russia did was right. It just means that, like, hey, you guys did a thing that you knew would lead to this other thing, and that was a dumb thing for you to do as well. Like, it's not this crazy idea. So
Yeah, so Smeghead with another one. What do you think of the poll that Americans that can't locate Ukraine on a map are more likely to favor war? I mean, that's just par for the course. At this point, government education has done its job. It's gotten everybody kind of brainwashed and mindless. The rally around the flag effect is going on right now, and it's like literally with the Ukraine flag. I'm seeing it all over Twitter, all over the titties of French women from the other day.
Yeah, it's supremely irritating. I know what this guy's getting at because, like, I know, say for example, my work, I've seen instances of this where it's like, and even then on social media, like, I am kind of literally, I have a Liberty podcast or whatever you want to call it. I said earlier, I'm not like super into current events, but even then, I'd say I pay attention to current events more than well over 90% of your average American. Like,
Yeah.
like
It's like for most
over
people,
90%.
they've got it on in the background while they're making dinner. They're not really actively paying attention to it.
Yeah, whereas I'll go on deep dives every now and then. Like me saying I'm not a huge current events guy, this is still me putting in hours, but not to the point to where I feel like I can give you any sort of like good explanation of shit. I can give you a semi decent one, but I can give you a far better explanation than your Joe Schmo. But Joe Schmo has a fucking super opinionated thing on it, and I'm like, I will be the point where like, hey, I'm very humble of like, I know I'm probably missing some information here and there, blah, blah, but they're like, no, I'm fucking certain. I'm like, dude, you know, like less than 10% of what I know. And you're like, 5 times more certain than I am. So like,
that's the Dunning-Kruger effect in full force right there.
Yeah. But, you just got to learn how to work with those people. Cause I've had people like that. Like I just kind of mentioned at work where, you interact with them and they'll have this super opinionated thing. And it's more just about learning how to interact with them and not be abrasive, but just kind of state your point. And if you know it's going to become an argument, just kind of drop it, but also don't not in a way in which you're conceding the ground to them. Just be like, oh, okay, whatever, man. And then, you will see even with people like that, they will usually a lot of times end up kind of coming around to where you're at. Cause they're like, they can see that you aren't intimidated by their, impressive foreign policy knowledge, they kind of start being like, oh, maybe this guy knows something,
Yeah, so Smeghead, you did miss that one. It was a bunch of French white women, of course, got all naked and painted the Ukrainian flag on their chests. And at least one thing I can say for the French ladies, there wasn't a ham planet in the whole scene, so we at least had that going for us.
What, chunky chick? There was like one semi-chunky, but like...
Yeah, but I mean, she was all the way in the back. Wasn't really the focal.
Yeah, but she was also like on, if I remember correctly, she's like on that line between thick and fat, where I'm like, I'll take it.
At that point, she's thick with 2 C's.
Yeah, and she was really the only one that had a good pair of milkers out of all of them. But to be fair, they were doing this pose, and that kind of stretches it out, so it flattens you out. So
evens
it wasn't very
everything.
appealing.
Yeah.
Really, they need to do this move if they want to accentuate the boobies.
Just hunch right over in front of the camera and dangle them a little bit.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it was pretty disappointing on that side of things because they were all pretty flat, skinny chicks, and they were also in a pose that didn't really do them any justice. So I was a little let down, but whatever. It was still gay either way.
Yeah, he was just kind of looking at it. It's like, oh man, why are you wasting your time on this? Yeah. But here we are. But it's been one of those things, and it's like most things with anything regarding the news. Most of the people that you're talking to are just barely even listening to it, much less actually reading a story and clicking on all the links in the story. I mean, we're not to Bob Murphy levels of, going into a deep dive on a story or anything. So, and he's had a couple of good episodes here recently, just tearing Thad apart. So I've been.
Yeah, I haven't checked those episodes. I mean, I don't know. I mean. I don't want to go too deep in the Thad one because I feel like I may say something that people will be like, because people take things out of context. But I think
anything involving anything near that conversation.
I'll go into it quickly. I think Thad is kind of somewhat misinterpreted in the sense of, for one, I want to put a disclaimer. I have not watched that full-on Kirshner episode because I just don't care enough about the topic. I just like... People are like, oh my God, this Kirshner episode. I'm like, okay, well, I saw his episode on Clint's show, and I've talked to him a little bit myself. He's been on my show before, and I kind of see where he's coming from. I I think I kind of am getting where he's coming from. I may be imbuing it a little bit with my perspective, but I also just don't care enough to go on like whatever a hour and a half, 3 hour dive or however long that episode was with Kirshner. I don't care to like watch an episode that long about the age of consent. I think kind of his point is, and this is kind of my point too. I mean, a lot of people are aware. I've talked before. I consider myself like an egoist, and I don't believe in like objective morality and shit like that. I don't think there's some magical age in which you're like, ta-da, you have consent. Like, but I also like coming from an egoist perspective. I don't give a fuck about consent. At the end of the day, if you're fucking 30 years old and you're banging my 16-year-old, I don't give a shit if you give me a coherent argument whether she consented or not.
Yeah.
I feel like this is missing the forest for the trees for so many of us.
Yeah.
This idea of consent. Like, is that really what you're going to be concerned about in this scenario? Whether they can, because there is some argument to the fact that it's arbitrary. But at the same point, it's kind of like, all right, does this even matter? Like this idea of consent, like sure, like yes, if you're talking about between adults, like did this person consent, that person consent, but if you're talking about something that we kind of somewhat
as long as they're not 13
minor,
shots in. So
yeah, if you're in this perspective of something you somewhat construe as a minor, is consent what really matters here? No, what really matters is there's some dude, that father most likely, that is not going to be fucking cool with that. And that's what really matters. Yeah. And I mean, in a magical anarchy land, I think that'll kind of be what it's like. There'll probably be communities where they kind of honor a certain age of consent, and others where they, kind of.
We even have that today. I mean, if you go around the world, there's whole cultures that, they pretty much have it in their heads. Like as soon as they're done with puberty, they are adults, and that's it. And if that's 15 or 16 or whatever it is, that's when they consider them to be adults.
Yeah.
And then, in our culture, it's like 18 seems to be like the hard line.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with that or not. I've met some 18-year-olds that are complete fucking idiots. And then, there's 17-year-olds out there like David Brady, who I was like, the guy's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows what he's talking about. So.
Yeah, and that's like, and for me, like, and I know for like me and probably you as well, that's disgusting to my sensibilities. But there's something too, like if you were to
just
roll
try
back,
around my little girl, see what happens.
Yeah, but if you were to roll back the time, 1,000 years ago, and put it in that context of, say, for example, an agrarian culture to where it's like people had a lower life expectancy, it really was important to procreate. It wasn't
because the village needed warriors at that point.
Yeah, like. It was a completely different cultural context, and am I gonna say that's wrong or right? I don't know. By my standards, that's not right, but I don't know. Like, I'm also not living there, so it's also kind of like it's kind of almost like this weird intellectual masturbation to where like I don't care because I don't live there. Like, at the end of the day, in my current sphere of influence. If someone, like the things I have the most control over are the things closest to me, and that's my family. And I know from my own perspective, if that happened to one of my kids, I'd be fucking irate and there'd be some goddamn issues. So like, and that's all that matters to me. Like I kind of like work for me and work outward. And that's,
I mean, that's, that goes back to the whole control the dot thing. It's like, you're the dot at the center of a small circle, which is your family and your friends. You may have a little bit of influence with your family and friends, but the only thing that you can truly control is the dot, which is you. And then out from that is, your neighborhood, your state or whatever. You have almost no influence there. Yeah. And you start getting circles and circles out, and you have now, nobody even knows who that dot is anymore. Yeah. So if we're all doing kind of that same thing where we're, teaching our family is like, hey, there's creeps in the world. Stay away from them. Don't get yourself in a situation where there's going to be a creep nearby, And if there is a creep nearby, here's a gun to defend yourself, type of thing. So it's many hands make light work, and if we're all kind of working together towards this idea of freedom and liberty and everything, the culture is going to have to come along with it. So,
but yeah. Anyways, I think what. Thaddeus' main point is that consent is extremely fucking arbitrary, but he's also conceded as well that like consent's not the main crux because like he said before, I think it was actually me. I made out a tweet.
Yeah, I
that
think
was
his
like,
big push was the Romeo Juliet type stuff, where you got like a
yeah.
19-year-old guy and a 17-year-old girlfriend. They've now got legal
Yeah.
problems.
Well, the problem is he gets bogged down in the consent area, and that's not even the issue. Like, and he's even said before, because like, this actually got played on Clint's episode. I made a tweet, and this was on my old account when I was like,
Yeah.
I think almost up to 4K. But I put I said the age of consent for my children is that age at which I feel it's unreasonable to put a bullet in your head. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of my perspective on the age of consent. I don't really care. Like you can be like, well, at 15, they're typically able to reason and do this. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean,
I
save
don't
that
care.
for another day. It's like at that
Yeah,
point, it's my
yeah.
15-year-old. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could be like, well, a 12-year-old, I mean, there are retards out there that are allowed to have sex, and there aren't that. I don't care. Like, we're in this weird arbitrary land, and I don't care. I genuinely don't care to argue with you about consent. I'm putting a bullet in your head. Cool story, bro. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
sure, maybe you have a valid argument. I also don't care.
Yeah, cool motive, still rape. Yeah. So here we go. Another one for David. So I just understand some economics. So he's like already trying to shuffle blame away from himself. Sounds like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
And
yeah,
then, of course, Smeghead. I'm too young to consent to being taxed. Now
Exactly.
we're on to it. Taxation is theft. Yeah, we all know.
But yeah, no. My point being is, God, what was I getting at? Yeah, no, he agreed to that. When I said that, Thad completely agreed with that. And so that was, I think that's kind of the point he was driving. I could be wrong, but from the interactions I've had with him and from what I've seen, that seems to be his point. His point is, yes, consent is extremely arbitrary and makes no goddamn sense in the perspective of age.
Especially in like a
whatever.
legal framework.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
it's just going to be tough. And the problem is, we can't talk about this without sounding like pedophiles.
Yeah. No, and
That's a bad
I'm
thing.
literally saying I want to put bullets in the heads of pedophiles right now. But I also am willing to recognize consent's extremely arbitrary. But at the same point, I don't fucking care. Like, if someone's like, well, they consented, I'm like, well, cool. Like, okay, face the wall. Like, sure,
Yeah.
maybe I even could, like, if we sat down and had an intellectual, like, conversation about it, I'd be like, you know what, you bring up some good points here, and I kind of agree. At the same time, I'm still putting a bullet in your head. Like, you could win the argument on consent, and I don't care. That's my crux of the issue here isn't consent. Like, it's not my problem. Like,
Yeah.
and so it's like, I just can't. It's this weird autistic mode we get in as libertarians. We're like, well, consent is everything. We're like, is it really? Like, if someone made a completely coherent argument that you agreed with of why your 13-year-old can consent, would you really be like, okay, well, they make, well, all right then.
Oh, you got me there. No,
I don't care.
Yeah, I had a good one the other day. Typo had tweeted out this thing about the no-fly zone thing in Ukraine, and I was like, well, this is exactly what statists believe. They think they can just like make some kind of rule, and that the other people will just follow it because they made a rule because they're in charge. And of course, he's like, oh damn, foiled again from rules and technicalities.
Yeah.
Yeah, as if Putin's gonna listen to like a no-fly zone. At that point, you're just begging for it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It seems to be there being. I mean, they're making some really dumb moves with the whole Ukraine thing, but at the same time, they still seem very hesitant because they're not doing anything like that. But I'm like, it's almost like they're trying to like amp up the propaganda to get us to buy into shit like that. I'm like, no, like no.
Yeah, I mean, we even saw this with when Elon Musk was like trading barbs with Pocahontas there. He was like, no, I'm going to pay billions of dollars in taxes this year. There's nobody in the United States that's going to pay as much taxes as I am. So, then you get the Psakis of the world that gets up there with her fake red hair. And I'm like really started to notice this in him. I don't really want to look at this woman's face anymore, but there it is. And she was like, well, no, we increase the taxes and they have to pay the taxes. And then someone pointed out, well, it's a corporation. They just pass that tax along to the consumer. I was like, well, no, they'll have to pay it. I was like, you made a rule. That doesn't necessarily mean people are going to follow it. They'll do everything that they can to get around it as much as possible.
Yeah. Now back to age of consent. I did actually, like, jokingly, but as serious time, Rothbard's perspective on the idea that kids should be property is actually like kind of like weirdly solves this problem to some extent. Not entirely. Obviously, there's going to be people within a family that cause an issue, but that really does solve the issue a lot because you're like, because it's no longer a matter of consent; it's a matter of property violation. So it's like, so the idea that you're like,
we even say that these are my kids.
Yeah.
We're expressing a possession over them.
Yes.
So
And it's like once they're able to, go out and, exert their influence in the world to where they can go out and make it and not rely on you, sure, they're no longer your property. Like Rothbard had some point there. Like, and
yes,
that really does in a weird way kind of somewhat solve. I mean, yes, there's obviously going to be like fathers and they're diddling their kids and shit, and that's disgusting. And you know what? Even then in Magical Anarchy Land, I think there would be, if some neighbor in Magical Anarchy Land, was realize that, they may take the issue in their own hands. But for the most part, I think the property thing solves a lot of this, because it's kind of like the whole idea of bickering about age of consent's beside the point. It's kind of like, okay, well, you fuck this dude's kid, and he claims that as property, so
yeah.
he's gonna have some problems with you.
And
we're gonna
I
figure
think
this
even
out.
if we ever do make it to Anarchotopia or Libertalia or whatever, these kind of discussions won't be had, because at that point we'll have already kind of sorted this kind of stuff out, and like then we're really truly getting towards like a consent problem. It's like, you took my tools without asking me, and now I'm here to collect plus damages.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that we'll ever see that in our lifetime. So
Yeah.
I'm under no delusions that at any point we're going to win. This is like something for maybe my great grandchildren at some point.
No, yeah,
and even then they might get a little bit close.
Me either. But I do think like pointing out theory or how things would work in the ideal does kind of allow you to demonstrate how it can kind of sort of possibly work in the here and now as well, or allows you, give you guidelines or principles to think of it. Because people get all caught up in the status paradigm, say, because we brought up age of consent. End of the day, I don't really care the age of consent is. If you're fucking my kid, we're gonna have a problem, state or not.
So David Brady just kind of summed up. Good argument. At least he'll die an intellectual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the rule of sniper on Overwatch. It's like, okay, you can run, you'll just die tired.
Yeah.
It's like, at some point I'm going to get you. It doesn't matter. But I think we touched everything. I drank the cat milk for you, so you're off the hook there. You paid me $100. It was well worth it. It's going to go towards something, I guess. So, but Jose, you can go ahead and get your grift on right now.
All right. I have the No Way Jose show. I'm on YouTube, all the major audio podcatchers, Odyssey as well. Just for those who aren't aware, Odyssey just made an app, so now it's much more accessible. So I'm
available on Android. It had been available on iPhone, because I've got it. I'm one of those.
Oh, it was on iPhone? I didn't know they had an iPhone one.
Okay. Yeah, they just released one for Android. So for all of you weirdos out there with a Samsung phone, you can now get it.
Yeah, I'm an Android guy because iPhone's completely fucking overrated. But I mean, I guess they're okay. I guess I don't know. But then again,
Jose, the next time you come back on, we'll have the Android versus iPhone argument. And
I can't even have that
versus
argument.
45 argument.
I had a flip phone up until like a few years ago, so I just am not someone who cares that much about that shit.
Surprisingly, that's the correct answer.
Yes. So, the Odyssey. Follow me on Twitter at 2020 No Way Jose. If you want to give me money, patreon.com/No Way Jose 2020 flipped.
Yes.
I think that's all my grift. Yeah.
I got. Of course, there's always the TPH super chats.
Yes.
Which will come to me with a little jar of cat milk for me to drink.
Yes. Definitely go follow Tower Power Hour, Tower Gang Pod on Twitter if you want to follow them there. But we have the Tower Power Hour. It's on YouTube. It's on audio podcatchers as well and Odyssey. But it's more of a viewing experience. I would suggest being there for live. It's definitely better live.
Yes. But, if you thought the chats here were fun about age of consent and Ukraine crap, definitely check them out over there.
Yep.
And there's not so much big brain time, as they like to put it.
Yeah, we weave in and out of it occasionally. But we have God, what was I gonna say? We have Lou Perez on this week. I think I mentioned that earlier. For my show, I have I think on Thursday I have Tommy Salmons, and we're doing another one of my Anarchist Handbook episodes. We're doing the
nice. He did a good job with Voltairine Declare. So
yes, that's what we're doing. Yeah. And then I'm for those who are very much into big brain time, I am currently working on scheduling between Stefan Kinsella and David Friedman, the big David Friedman of Machinery of Freedom, probably most noted as being probably the most noted consequentialist. That kind of his starting point is consequentialism, or whatever. He kind of makes arguments from that perspective as opposed to like a moral argument, like a nap argument. And I'm getting them to have a debate on consequentialism versus deontology, which is basically just a nap, like the moral position, essentially, for those who aren't like super big brain. So it'll be fun seeing them doing that. But I'm just working on scheduling. I don't know when that's going to be. I'll announce it probably on Twitter whenever I work it out. David Friedman's an old timer, and so he's a little bit old school. So it's all email. So it's very much like a you're not hitting them up wait a day, ping, wait a day, ping, wait a day. So, but yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. Speaking of boomers, what day of Bert Kreischer watch are we on?
I don't know. It's ridiculous. I genuinely think some producer, or not producer, but some of his like PR guy sent him like an infamous N-word fucking reel. I was like, you can't do this, you know. But you know what? If they're gonna have an N-word,
happen.
Yeah,
I knew that.
If they're gonna have an N-word reel, though, I feel like they need to release it public because this is not fair. To like, I mean, it's one thing to use it to like just to fuck up guests for us, but at least let us get the fucking boost from it because we would have so much fun if someone released that online. We would do the exact opposite.
These guys are out of control. Yeah,
we do the exact opposite of Rogan, and we'd probably have a video and be like, "Yeah, we fucking said it."
No, we're not apologizing. Yeah, because we didn't say it to somebody. That's the point.
Yeah.
But thanks, Jose, for coming on. It's always a blast talking to you, and it was definitely a blast to hang out with you at the Tom Woods 2000. So I can't wait to make my way over to Florida to hang out with you some more.
Yeah, holler whenever you're in Florida. I appreciate you having me on, man.
All right, no problem. All right, and there he goes, folks. Also, if you once I get all the notes and everything set up, that's going to be down below in the show notes. I'll have all of his links and deets and everything set up over there. If you could help me out, go down and check out my links as well. If you go to lorenzotti.coffee, you can save yourself 10% on all your orders by putting in my promo code RWAC at checkout. It's a really great cup of coffee if you like that kind of thing. But anyways, guys, take it easy. And tomorrow night we'll be back about the same time. We're going to have Stephanie Edmonds on. Going to go over some of the cases up there in New York about the mask mandates and everything else. So it's going to be more Koof talk, but Stephanie is going to be a great guest to get on about that. She's fired up and raring to go. So anyways, guys, take it easy. We'll come at you tomorrow. See ya.